welcome back. So, I was thinking about contentment again, and it was kind of a few different routes that was in mind when thinking about the subject. There's a group of people I like to call the One-Eye community, and I found myself getting slightly irritated at the fact that they kind of take the Bible and try to manipulate it into like a game for their community. Like, I don't know if these people just are so soulless that they don't have any fear of God or respect for God. So it's like, to me, it seems like they try to find ways to debunk or refute or mock who God is. And because of however they're able to do whatever it is that they do, it's like, for them, it brings them some weird type of joy to show that they're able to do what they do. And from my perspective, not being able to explain how these people are doing what they're doing without sounding crazy. Like, if I was to explain exactly what I've been seeing, I would seem like the crazy person in the situation compared to these people, the things that they're doing actually being crazy. Like, I call it body snatching. And I call it that because there are people remotely viewing through other people. And like I said, to me, that's strange. Like, as a person who has a purpose from God, I have something to look forward through my own experience of a relationship with God and what He has called me to do while I'm here. But there's a people that don't believe, so when they're done with what they feel like they've completed in their lifetime, they try to find fulfillment through other people. And for the game of it, like, that's how they put it. Like, literally what they put it. They call it a sport. It's crazy. But what is the most disheartening in it is they I don't even want to use the term recruit, because it's not even like a recruit. It's like a predator. Like, they notice talent in people, or they notice leadership qualities in people, and they find ways to make people I don't want to say, I'm going to say sell themselves short, but that's not exactly what I mean. Like, it's people that could be genuinely just walking out what they feel like is a God-given talent. And these people will strip the God in it out of the person and then have the person, for some, seem like they're out of their mind, and then for others, like, baited into different agendas for the fact that they can. And the more disheartening matter in it is, you see how there are people that are supposed to be pastors or leaders in that type of way falling into the same thing, whether it's because they want to be a part of that community or because they are being a product of that same thing I was just talking about. So when it comes down to like a genuine person wanting to know who God is and how God shows up for his children, it makes it hard for people that are genuinely trying to cultivate a relationship when you can't really trust the intention behind people, like just people. And it forces a person that might genuinely have answers to assist people through a journey that they're just not used to. It makes them not able to speak on these things because of how that community will manipulate and twist what is said to fit whatever agenda driven that they have. And it makes it harder to express what you mean or the intention behind it, because there's always an accusatory type of pressure put on by something that you can't even point a person out with. Like, there's not, like I said, like going back to that, you would seem crazy if you try to explain these things or what you're seeing happening. For example, I noticed, I went back reading one of the Bible stories that I like reading. And from previously reading it, I took notes in the section that I was reading. And I noticed that the way that I took the note was, it was a personal response for me. So when the Bible character was explaining something, he stated that, you know what, let me read exactly what the verse was. Hold on. So I went back and I was reading Joseph's story, and I came on to the section where like Potiphar's wife was pretty much about to lie on him and say that he was trying to get with her when he wasn't. And when it's Genesis 39 verse 9, it says, "No one is greater in the house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? I'm going to just stop it there. But when I was taking my notes, I took the no one is greater in the house than I am, as in no one is greater in the house than God. So in my notes, I capitalized the I am in the I am, even though in the book itself, Joseph was talking about himself. But when I was reading it, to me, I took it as no one is greater than God, because it then goes into him stating, how could he do such a wicked thing and sin against God? That's a personal note from my understanding while reading the word and having a relationship with God and just taking notes for myself. But how I've noticed, even though you might have something that only you and God would know, this community will try to twist it as if you're going against what the word says, because there's somewhere in the Bible where it says that you shouldn't change the words or add or take from the Bible. And again, like I said, these people try to justify what they do and manipulate people that are just genuinely trying to cultivate a relationship with God and make them feel like how they're having their relationship with God is discredited because they want God to be in this cookie cutter, or they want him to show up the same for everyone in the same way, even though in any relationship you don't show up the same way for everyone the same way. So it's like taking someone that is excited to learn about, for example, it's like, let's say you get into a new relationship with somebody and you have like the open-mindedness of not knowing. So you don't know their flaws, you don't know things about them that may cause you to like or dislike them. You don't know, so you're giving them the space to allow you to get to know them. And it's like someone coming in and pointing out everything that you've noticed that you like about them and trying to discredit why you like these things about them because of these other aspects that aren't relevant to why you like whatever it is that you like about this person. So now you're taking that pure viewpoint and trying to adjust how you deal with a person based off of things that an interjection is placed in without genuinely hearing the standpoint from the other person's perspective. And to be honest, some things with God, you just won't know until you have a relationship with him. Like, you could meet someone who seems like they just have always been going through it, and they praise God like you wouldn't understand, because you wouldn't understand. Like you wouldn't understand because you haven't been through the trials and tribulations that they've gone through, and haven't learned the lessons that he intended for that person to learn to cultivate that type of relationship with him. But all you see is their struggle, so you just like, why would they praise somebody that is causing them such misery? Not knowing that he strategically helps us through overcoming the obstacles that the people that I'm trying to explain are trying to put in the place, because they can't, or not even can't, that they don't want to believe is actually there. Like, they see it happening. They don't understand it. They're upset that it's happening. So they try to manipulate the process of you genuinely get to knowing who you believe in, because they don't understand it. But all it does is further justify the parables that Jesus talked about. So like the parable that comes to mind for kind of what's taking place with this is that parable of the sower, where Jesus is talking about how the different seeds react once they fall on the ground. And as believers, there's different levels to believing. That's why Jesus started off with the whole mustard seed, because of how small the mustard seed is and how big the mustard seed can grow into. But with any seed, just because it is planted does not mean it can grow or that it will grow. The environment matters. The tending to it or the pruning of it matters. So there's so many times where I'm noticing these things, and it wants me to go into this hermit mode and be like, forget all of this. Like, I don't want to explain. I don't want to participate. Like, Lord, if we can just have our own relationship and it just be us, I'm fine with that. But I have to remember that community is a real thing, despite the negativity that is trying to be portrayed in that aspect. But I noticed how there was a mom kind of being like vulnerable, and how she just some days she doesn't feel like getting up and going, and like she pushes herself to do it because of her kids. And I don't even have kids, and just the vulnerability and putting that message out there just was like, you know what? Here's someone who has to get up and do these things because they have a child and they're pushing through and doing it. Let me go ahead and push myself a little further too, because look, I don't even have kids yet. And I'm not saying that the way I was feeling wasn't justified. It's just that if I can see this mom push through, I can push through a little further too. And things like that are the things that community tries to stop, because it doesn't want a people to get to their fullest potential because of their need for control. So when I see things like the timing of the way that I do things are being pinpointed to the timing of commercials starting on YouTube when I'm watching stuff like that'll make me upset. But it's the the other perspective of seeing a mom trying to protect their child from being watched by that community in a perverted way is like, okay, I understand the bigger picture of why God is trying to do things the way that he does things. Because perversion has no limit. These people, because there's no one to point a finger at, they go beyond. They go beyond. They go beyond. I can't even explain, but they go beyond, and it's sickening. So when I'm sitting back thinking about, like, dang, I don't feel like I have anyone that I can go to express these concerns, or I don't have anyone that I can talk through these types of things with, to not even feel justified, but to stay focused on God's bigger purpose through what his intention behind, not even behind, just his intention originally is for all of this, all of us. I tried to show up the best that I can doing my part, and however God is trying to use me through the situation. But the best part in this lesson, I have to call them lessons, the Bible verse that stood out the most was Genesis 50:20. And just the way Joseph responded to his brothers in that verse was just like, you know what? It's not the same, but it's definitely the same thing. And I don't know if anybody else going through what I'm going through, but it's a lot of people that lived in purpose for you to be able to live in your purpose. And that's all I really got to say for that. But until next time.